Hello everyone and welcome back to the EL99 coursebook. In this part, we're going to be going over the final part of Unit 1, 1C. We're going to be going over conversation styles. So let's dive right in. Here we have exercise 1 in pairs, look at the photos and answer some of the questions. So before doing anything else, I'm actually going to open this first. Okay, I'd like you to take a look at the pictures here. Obviously, you're going to be pausing the video. So pause the video for about 30 seconds, take a look at the photos, and guess what is really going on. And if there are games being played, what are they called? Okay, so I'm going to assume you paused the video. You guys know the drill by now. Let's go over some of the questions together. Can you name the game, or were you able to name some of the games in the photos below? And are these games popular in your country? I'm going to start with this one. So um, we have frisbee, bowling, and table tennis. Are the games popular in your country? I'd say some of them. I know bowling is pretty popular. Table tennis is also a close second. Frisbee, not as much, but you do see it often on things like the beach, for example, or resorts, stuff like that. How do you play the games? Take it in turns to describe the rules. Okay, so if you guys are doing this in pairs, I'd like you to talk to the other person and explain, basically pick a game and explain the rules for said game. I actually don't know the rules for both table tennis and frisbee, but I do know a little bit about bowling. Basically, to give a very quick gist of the rules, it's basically you have multiple people playing, and you have two tries, and every time you bowl, you try your best to knock all of these. Oh God, I don't even know what you call them. Thingies, basically. You knock them over and you try to basically, if you knock all of them, you get a strike. If you don't, then it counts how many you knocked, and then the person with the most knocks over the course of the game ends up winning. This is a very simplified version of the rules. If you want to know the actual rules, just Google it. Um, how are the games similar to the styles of conversation described in the article? Okay, before we go to this one, let's take a look at what is being written here. So first, let's put these for each one. So we know now that this is called frisbee, this is called bowling, and this is called table tennis. So we have the frisbee style, the bowling style, and the table tennis style. Now, what I'd like you to do is, again, pause the video one more time and take 15 to 20 to 30 seconds to just skim through this as quick as possible, get a general idea of what is being said, and then come back to this video. All right, so let's go over the frisbee style. This is the usual style of conversation. Two or more people take turns to speak and cooperate to keep the conversation going. The pace of the conversation is usually quite slow and relaxed. This is the frisbee style. For the bowling style, the type of conversation is usually very polite and people do not interrupt. Everyone waits for the speaker to finish before they take their turn. There are never two people talking at the same time. So you guys notice how some different types of conversation resemble some of the games that we just talked about. The table tennis style, for this one, it is very different from the other two styles. The pace of the conversation is usually quite fast, and each person is trying to win by attacking the other person as opposed to getting their point across. Also known as arguments, by the way. So this was one. How are the games similar to the styles of conversation? Actually, before we move on, let's take a look at this. So for the frisbee style, this is more so like a normal conversation between two people, perhaps two friends, family members, just having a normal conversation, at dinner or at lunch, after class activities, things like that. Um, for the bowling style, it's because it's very polite and people usually do not interrupt. This is more so something like perhaps someone speaking at a conference, or perhaps a university professor giving a lecture where you have to sit down and actually listen. You don't interrupt the speaker. things like that. For table tennis, this one's pretty obvious. It's usually just two people arguing over something. Could be, again, friends, family members, but the main point of an argument is to basically attack the other person and try to win the conversation, which is, again, not ideal, but very similar to table tennis because it's fast paced and things like that. Okay, now let's go to exercise 2. Again, to follow up on the situations that we just discussed. Which of these situations are similar to the 3 games and give reasons for your answers? Okay, so a university lecture is bowling, lunch with good friends is frisbee, and an argument between two people is table tennis. Let's give reasons. A university lecture is because you have to pay attention and not interrupt the professor while speaking. I know that's quite long, so you can pause the video and um, have a similar reason. Although I do suggest you write your own reasoning. Um, as long as it's similar, it's correct. Lunch with good friends, because talking. What could we say here? Because talking. Hmm, with friends is usually chill. Lunch with good friends. Frisbee, yeah, is usually chill and slow paced. Something like that. And finally, an argument between two people. This is table tennis. The reason for this is because um, arguments are usually fast paced and each side is trying to win the conversation. Okay? So these were some of the situations, and these were the reasoning as to why we chose each game. Okay. Now let's go to. Can you think of any other games that show a style of conversation? Which conversation style is most common in your country? Okay, so for the first question, can you guys think of any other games that perhaps show a style of conversation? I can think of one off the top of my head, and this could apply to quite a bit of different team sports. So, can you think of any other games? Football is quite common where I live. So, we could compare football to, say, debate groups. Debates are types of conversation where there are two or more people, so usually like 2 to 4, on each side, explaining a point of view, usually opposing points of view, by the way, and each team is trying to come up with points and points of view to get their point across in a manner that is both respectful yet stern. So, again, very similar to football because in football, you can't score a goal on your own. You need the help of your teammate. That's why you have goalkeepers, defenders, midfielders, right wing and left wing, and attackers, or strikers. So, again, very similar. You cannot win a debate on your own. You could do a lot of the work on your own, but that's a big difference. Again, very similar to football. But you do need some help if you're going to win a debate against multiple people with opposing points of view. Which conversation style is most common in your country? I don't think there's a conversation style that is most common, but I will say there are ones that are perhaps like it depends on where you are and what you're doing. For example, I'd say the frisbee style is the most common between like younger folks, because they meet a lot of friends, family members, talk, have a good time, all of that, especially in outings, like at outings. But the other ones, they also happen just a little less frequently, if you will. So that's my take on that. Now let's go to, let's see here. Read the sentences about communication. Do you or disagree? So what I'd like you to do is go over these sentences, and for each one, I'd like you to either agree or disagree and give your own reasoning. And then you'll hear my reasoning and you can compare answers. Again, remember, there's no right or wrong here. It's simply what you believe on. So let's go. Men and women have different conversation styles. I disagree. I don't think men and women have different conversation styles. I think people have different conversation styles. I don't think putting a gender on it uh, makes, like, you can't stereotype men into having a specific conversation style, and the same goes for women. I think people are just different in general. You could have a man and a woman have the same conversation style, and another man and another woman have totally different conversation styles. So I disagree with the first one. Lectures are boring. Um, Mostly agree, but hear me out. It depends. See, if you're studying something that you enjoy, that you actually like, and the professor or teacher that's teaching you is really good at their job and they don't make it feel like a 2 hour lecture because of how engaging they are in their teaching style, then it's a lot of fun. But because most people tend to study things that are not particularly interesting to them, and because a lot of teachers out there are not very good at their jobs, lectures do tend to be quite boring. And the reason I know this is true is because if most people were good lecturers, and again, most students studied things they liked, then this statement would cease to exist. But we know lectures are boring is basically the motto in every school and even university. So yeah, people spend too much time on their phones. I agree with this one. I do agree that all of us spend a lot more time than we like to admit on our phones for obvious reasons. That could be things like social media, things like um, some people game on their phones, some people work on their phones, whatever the cause may be, whether positive or negative, it's still too much time. So, yes, I agree. Social media is a waste of time. For me personally, I disagree because actually, I'm very curious to see everybody's stance on this. If you could write me in the comments, that'd be great. For me personally, I disagree. Social media is only a problem when it's the only thing that you do. So if you wake up and doom scroll until you go back to bed and you don't get any work done, you don't eat, you barely eat, you don't do any of your duties, whatever that may be, whatever that might entail, then yes, you have a problem and you should probably lay off social media for a bit. But browsing social media, even if it's for no reason, is no different than watching TV after a long day or when you have a day off or going out to play football or going to the gym. Yes, one might be healthier than you, but at the end of the day, it's all things that you do to relax and have a good time. So, unless it's literally taking up all of your time, I don't think social media is a waste of time, especially because it helps us connect with people all over the world, whether continents, countries, even different cities, things like that. So it does have a lot of pros going for it. Let's go to two. Listen to two students having a discussion. Which statement from one do they discuss? Did they agree or disagree with the statement? Okay, so it looks like we're going to be listening to the agreements or disagreements that we just had. Let's see here. I'm actually going to reset this. All right, so I'm going to play this once first. And what I'd like you to do is listen to the audio and think about which of the statements above do they discuss and do they agree or disagree with the statement. So here we go.
Hi, Tassim. How are you doing?
Pretty good. And you?
Okay, but lectures are really boring. My lecturer speaks very slowly and he just reads his notes. What about you?
Well, you're right, basically. Lectures are boring. But I think our engineering lectures are okay.
Really? I'm not sure. He never uses slides, and his explanations are so long.
I see your point, but some lectures are okay.
Well, anything is better than maths.
I completely agree.
Okay, so they were clearly talking about lectures and if they're boring or not. So before we actually go into the exercise, I'm going to play it one more time for you guys. This time, I'd like you to focus on if both of them agree on the same thing or if they don't agree, and then we'll move on. So I'll play it one more time. Here we go.
Hi, Tassim. How are you doing?
Pretty good. And you?
Okay, but lectures are really boring. My lecturer speaks very slowly, and he just reads his notes. What about you?
Well, you're right, basically. Lectures are boring. But I think our engineering lectures are okay.
Really? I'm not sure. He never uses slides, and his explanations are so long.
I see your point, but some lectures are okay.
Well, anything is better than maths.
I completely agree.
All right. So they were clearly talking about if lectures are boring. And do they both agree, you guys? Yes, they do. That is correct. Looks like we're going to be listening one more time for exercise 3. Take the phrases you hear. So here we have a few phrases. What about you? I disagree. I completely agree. I think our engineering lectures are okay, and I'm not sure. Just tick the ones that you hear. Here we go.
Hi, Tassim. How are you doing?
Pretty good. And you?
Okay, but lectures are really boring. My lecturer speaks very slowly, and he just reads his notes. What about you?
Well, you're right, basically. Lectures are boring. But I think our engineering lectures are okay.
Really? I'm not sure. He never uses slides, and his explanations are so long.
I see your point, but some lectures are okay.
Well, anything is better than maths.
I completely agree.
Okay, so these were some of the phrases that, or more like all the phrases that I heard. I hope you got this. If not, then probably heard something I didn't. What about you? I completely agree. I think our engineering lectures are okay, and I'm not sure. All right, awesome. Let's go to 4. Put the phrases from 3 in the correct place in the focus box. Okay, let's take a look at the focus box. Oh, I'm going to reset this. Here we have some phrases, and these are the phrases that we just looked at, and we want to put them in the correct focus box or in the correct place in the focus box. So here we have opinions and different opinions, and which statement should you use or phrase should you use for different opinions. Let me give you an example. Here we have giving your opinion. So when you want to give your opinion to someone, what do you say? Lectures are boring. So if you're giving your opinion, you'd say something like, I think our engineering lectures are okay. What about asking for an opinion? What do you think? You could also use something like, what about you? What about you? What do you think? Agreeing. So if you agree with someone, you could say something like, you're right. You could also say, I completely agree. Disagreeing. For disagreeing, I don't think so. You could also say something like, very simply, I disagree. I don't agree with you. I disagree. If you're neutral or you haven't decided, you could say something like, I'm not sure. So, not decided, I'm not sure. So, this was the focus box for exercise 4. There you go. All right. I think for this part we're done. This here. Let's go to the writing skills and see what we got here. Here we have, well, let me actually open it first. Okay. So a paragraph has three main parts. Match the parts of a paragraph with the definitions. So just so you guys know, any paragraph usually has three main parts. We have introduction, main body, and conclusion. Now let's read some of these descriptions and match them with each one. For a general description of the topic and what the reader can expect to read, this is usually the introduction. It gives a very general idea of what the topic is going to be about and what you as a reader can expect to read. And then we have the main body, which is basically the bread and butter of the paragraph. It's going to include a lot more information than the introduction and the conclusion. So this will be facts and data, descriptions of people, functions, processes, opinions, comparisons, and contrasts. Also things like advantages and disadvantages. Basically, most of the information will be in the main body. This is called the main body. And finally, for the conclusion, the name is pretty self-explanatory, is the writer's opinion based on the information that was presented in the main body. This is called the conclusion. Okay? All right, great. Now let's take a look at exercise 2 here. It looks like we have a paragraph. Read the parts of a paragraph and put them in the correct order. Okay, so what I want you to do is I'd like you to pause the video and read this paragraph. Now remember, this is not necessarily in the correct order. I'd like you to put them correctly. Which one is the introduction, which one is the main body, and which one is the conclusion. And then we'll go over them together. All right, so I'm going to assume you did that and you have your intro, you have your main body, and you have your conclusion. Let's go over them. The Maestro is a lot cheaper than the Speedmaster, so I think that the Maestro is more suitable for the average person than the Speedmaster. This looks like it's the writer's opinion, and it looks like it's concluding things, so this will be last. This will be the conclusion. In this essay, I will compare two racing bicycles and describe which is better for the average buyer. This is a general idea of what is going to be going on in the main body of the paragraph, so this is the introduction. And notice how the main body has a lot more words than both the introduction and the conclusion, because there's just more information. The Speedmaster is made for professional cyclists and costs over £10,000. It is expensive because it is made from titanium. This metal is light, but it is also very strong and very expensive. The Maestro is made from aluminium and is made for amateur cyclists, but it is twice as heavy as the Speedmaster, so it is not suitable for professional cyclists. It costs around £2,000. That is quite the difference in price. Okay. Read the paragraph in 2 again. Which essay question below does the paragraph answer? So when they say read the paragraph, it means read the whole thing. So this essay, I will compare two racing bicycles and describe which is better for the average buyer. We also already read this. The Maestro is a lot cheaper than the Speedmaster, so I think the Maestro is more suitable for the average person than the Speedmaster. Pause the video, skim through it one more time, and pick one, and then check your answers with me. Okay, so if I had to choose one, which essay question below does the paragraph answer? I would say which bicycle is suitable for the average person. Okay. Now let's go to linking ideas. Okay. So when we have two sentences, you guys, we can join them together with something like because the second reason gives us a reason. For example, let's take a look here. The bicycle is expensive. It is made from titanium. So instead of having two separate sentences, we can combine them together and say the bicycle is expensive. Why? Because it is made from titanium. when there is a reason for what you just said, you can add the word because to combine them together. Let's do a quick review before we go to the exercise. Always start a sentence with a capital letter. You guys know this. This is basic English. Use a capital letter for things like names of people, names of cities, names of countries, nationalities, and languages. Also days of the week and months. Okay? And finally, when you end a sentence, either use a full stop at the end or use a question mark if it's a question. All right, so this is basic correct punctuation. Now let's go to exercise 4. Looks like we have some words that are jumbled. What we're going to do is we're going to correct them, and we're also going to be using correct punctuation as we go. So we have hurts my eyes, swimming, I don't like because, in the sea, and the salt. We'll say something like, I don't like swimming in the sea because the salt hurts. Oh, sorry. My eyes. Again, don't forget the full stop. Eyes capital. And because is here. Okay, great. For B, we have the weather. Do not use people in the UK. It's not hot there because and air conditioners. Let's see. We'll say people in the UK do not, UK do not use air conditioners. Why? Because the weather is not hot there. Full stop. C, too crowded on Friday nights because to the mall it is, I do not go. I'll say, I do not go to the mall on Friday nights. Friday is in capital, you guys, because it's the name of a weekday. Because it is too crowded. All right, awesome. And finally, I have to class a hospital appointment. I can't come tomorrow because I'll say I can't come to class tomorrow because I have a hospital appointment. Yeah, that's it. So I don't like swimming in the sea because the salt hurts my eyes. People in the UK do not use air conditioners because the weather is not hot there. I do not go to the mall on Friday nights because it is too crowded. I can't come to class tomorrow because I have a hospital appointment. Okay, so that was exercise 4. I hope yours was similar to this. Now we have linking ideas 2. Let's take a look again. We can join 2 sentences with the word so. When the second sentence gives a reason, we use a comma before so. So the maestro weighs 8.5 kg. It is twice as heavy as the Speedmaster. So again, instead of having 2 sentences, we can put a comma and add the word so, again, for a reason. The Maestro weighs 8.5 kg, so it is twice as heavy as the Speedmaster. And as we do exercise 5, you'll get the idea. Let's go over exercise 5. This one is not as long, but again, I'd like you to pause the video and do it on your own before checking answers with me. So, I know that food is important for our health. I eat a lot of fruit, so I'll say something like, I know that food is important for our health, in comma, so I eat a lot of fruit. I want to learn how to drive. I will start driving lessons next week. I want to learn how to drive, so I will start driving lessons next week. I have a problem with vocabulary. I'm going to start writing down new words. I have a problem with vocabulary, comma. So I am going to start writing down new words and then full stop. Okay? So this was exercise 5. And on that note, this concludes Unit 1C, the final part of Unit 1. So I hope you guys had a great time. I hope you learned something new in this unit, and I will see you in the next unit. Till next time. Bye-bye.